I can't hum. Or I can, it just hurts my lips. Anyway, this is the start of the second half of Rebels Season 2. This is a princess on Lothal. In this episode, the Rebels send Princess Leia Organa with some ships to help resupply the Rebels after they lost their ships in the last episode. But, according to Leia, they can't just exchange the ships or would reveal that Leia is with the Rebels. So, instead they need to basically make it look like the Rebels. Leia needs to make it seem like the Rebels are stealing the ships from her, which leads to some conflict. Also, Clancy Brown's character, whose name I can't forget, joins the Rebel crew. And this episode was a mixed bag once again, and again, AV Club articulates a lot of wonderful stuff I'm going to put there. But, I mean, ultimately, this episode suffers the same problem a lot of Rebels episodes tend to have, which is that character arcs tend to be sort of rushed in the gloss of an episode. Like, they don't really let stuff sit. And I think the biggest thing is Ezra dealing with his parents. That's something that could have been stretched out more, at least a bit more consistent, because it seems like that's a potential thrust to get Ezra towards the dark side, which it feels like that's where they're going towards the end of the season, and they need to be consistent about that, because I'm not really sure by the end whether or not he's over it or not. Because on one end, we still have Ezra down at the start of this episode, but at the same time, then Leia just gives him one quick pep talk, and all of a sudden Ezra has the inspiration to realize to get over it. But then he also beats up an Imperial officer. I'm like, okay, are we consistent here or what? If Ezra's over the loss and he's bright and smiley, which wouldn't surprise me since Rebels tends to do that with its characters a lot, they'll just get past something really quick. Then I feel like they should stretch out. I mean, if you want to see an example of a character grieving over something and them handling to get over the loss well, just look at Avatar: The Last Airbender. Specifically in Season 2 when Aang loses Appa. Like, it's not like Aang's upset and then the next episode he's bright and smiling. No. Throughout the entirety of the next episode, Aang is just upset, he is bitter, he is angry. He goes through anger, frustration, hopelessness. It's just, like, they don't gloss over that. And even the next episode, like, Aang's still not fully over it. He's cooled down a bit, especially now that he knows where Appa is, but there's still that part of him that's bitter, and it's not really until the end of the episodes. It's not until 2 episodes that Aang is fully over. With Rebels, it's like sometimes Ezra's bright and smiley, sometimes he's down and bitter. And it's not like this is anything new. 1 minute Kanan hates Rex, the next he's cool with him, then he's back to being rivals with him. And this also happened with the Governor, voiced by Clancy Brown, who, again, goes from not wanting anything to do to being like, sure, why not, I'll help, to helping them. And I feel like that could have been a lot quicker. But again, like as AV Club sort of points out, a lot of this is sort of like swept under the rug so we can have some action and spectacle, and then almost as an afterthought, the characters suddenly just are like, you know what, I'm over that. And Rebels tends to work like that a lot. There'll be a character conflict that they'll set up, and then the Empire will show up, we'll fight action, and the characters will be like, you know what, I'm over it. And it's like, even though nothing in the action helped them get over it. And again, it was specifically Kanan with the clone Rex, and Sabine with that fellow bounty hunter. And if you want to see something like this done right, just look at Gravity Falls. Specifically the episode Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. And the reason why I say this episode is because it's very good at sort of continuing the threads from the last season. I mean, as far as just healing the rift between Ford and Stan, but not fully healing it. Again, we see let me start. The point is, it's not just an action thing. It's helping establish characters. We see Dipper and Ford growing closer, but also we see the divide between Dipper and Mabel, and also Ford learning that his brother Stan is actually helpful and useful. All while we're again, it's not just, hey, let's do a Dungeons and Dragons episode. It's, hey, how does this develop the characters? And nothing about the action really developed the characters. Not to say it wasn't a fun scene with lots of energy, wonderful animation lighting, from the AT-AT to using a lightsaber to cut it down, which completely begs the question, why doesn't Luke do that in Empire? But, yeah, amidst all that, you sort of lose the characters. And, I mean, it doesn't help that the writer of this arc tends to be someone who... He's written for Clone Wars, but it's the arcs I really don't care for. Like, he wrote the slavery arc from Season 4, which wasn't a terrible arc, but I don't really remember it that well. That's one of the more forgettable arcs. I love Season 4, but that arc is one that really I don't remember much of. And once again, we have another guest star, another Star Wars character slipped in. Although, to be fair, this one actually works in the sense that, you know, it makes sense for Princess Leia to be doing a little stops to each member of the Rebel Alliance. Although, I hope if she better not show up too often, or it'll start to feel a little too forced. I do like the idea of a younger Princess Leia. They finally got the designs on the humans right. Like, she looks good. The voice, it doesn't sound like Princess Leia, but then again, it's a younger Princess Leia, and it did take a bit of getting used to for me, but I eventually got used to it. I'm just glad they didn't use too much default face on her. I like the idea of her having to put on an act and pretend she's with the Empire. It's sort of one of those things you have to remember. But, again, as AV Club Star points out, I feel like Leia's presence sort of took away from what should have been a character-focused episode. An episode that should have focused on Ezra, the loss of his parents, and the governor. But that all just gets shoved to the side to make room for action, which is something Rebels always does, unfortunately. And I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, there were old Republic ships. That was really cool to see the ships from the opening of KOTOR. That was cool. Yeah, Leia. The problem with the writers is I think they're so focused on the... I mean, they could just be very well getting studio notes to bring in classic Star Wars characters, but if they're not, like, they're so focused on the lore of Star Wars that they kind of forget about characters and story, or at least they don't understand it as well as I feel like they should. But anyway, now the Jedi have Republic cruisers. Not the Jedi, the Rebels have Republic cruisers, which, really cool seeing them on the fleet, which continues the vaguely defined theme of this season, which is about building the Rebel fleet. And are they ever going to look for a new base? Because they really haven't been doing that as of late. Another thing, I hope the Rebel act on Lothal gets the Empire's attention. Like, now that taking the blockade off, I hope once word gets out the Ghost is there, the Republic is like, let's go back to Lothal. And hopefully we don't go back to Lothal too much. Like, I want to get off Lothal, I want to go to new locations. And from the looks of things, it seems like the next episode is going to take us somewhere new. I'm trying to think. I mean, while I like the Rebels getting the new Republic cruisers, the giant KOTOR ships, I feel like it undermines the loss that the Empire took them down. And oh yeah, and I almost forgot AV Club. Thanks AV Club for reminding me. Princess Leia, what is up with this show and speeches resolving everything? Like, seriously, like, the Rebels can't think of a plan, and Leia gives them a motivational speech, and they suddenly come up with something. So that's my thought. It wasn't a terrible episode, but again, it's like one of those, come on, right. Let the characters guide the story, not the action. Anyway, the next episode's The Protector of Concord Dawn. It's probably it looks like it's going to be another Sabine episode. Hopefully the writers understand that simply explaining where Sabine comes from doesn't make her more interesting. Hopefully that'll happen. If not, wouldn't surprise me. I hope we get some more tidbits on what was going to happen to Mandalore in the Clone Wars. And from the looks of the new clip, it looks like we are finally going to learn a bit more about who Sabine is. And that's all I have to say about this week's episode. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Like, dislike, subscribe, and this is JStar660. And until next time, may the Force be with you.